From 1930 to the present 2011, Korea has changed greatly from its war-torn third world country to the digital capital of the world. Along with these great changes, 4 generations of my family have changed with the land too. My ancestors on my mom's side were the prestigious Yun clan of Cheongju. As Yangbans or aristocrats, they owned a very large plot of land and a huge house called the Hanok House. During the Japanese occupation, which started during 1910, the Japanese were brutal towards the Koreans, abusing them in every shape and form. However, the Yun clan was not as affected by this, partly because they were of noble status, and they were not living in urban centers such as Seoul, but rather in the countryside away from the busy cities. In 1945, the atomic bomb was dropped to the joy of my great-grandparents and grandparents. The Japanese left and the new government was formed, the Republic of Korea. This brought the downfall of the monarchy, which led to the downfall of the aristocratic families across Korea. My great-grandfather lost his Hanok house and much of his land to the new republic, but he held on firmly to the lands where his ancestors were buried. Everything was becoming normal until the 25th of June, 1950. This day is known to the Koreans as Yu-Gi-Oh, literally translating to 625. This was the day the North Korean communists attacked. Waves and waves of North Korean troops tore through the peaceful and unsuspecting South Korean lands, ravaging farmlands and devastating cities and villages. The capital city of Seoul was taken in a matter of weeks as an unrelenting force of the massive North Korean army pushed down the peninsula. My grandpa enlisted in the Korean army for 10 years, but because the North did not come through the countryside, but rather through urban centers along the coast, he never saw much action. The war had ceased temporarily in 1953 with an armistice, and the land was divided by the 38th parallel. Dr. Syngman Rhee became the first president of South Korea. In 1958, my mother was born into a family of 2 older brothers, 1 older sister, and 1 younger brother. When my parents were 3 years old in 1961, a South Korean general by the name of Park Chung-hee grew sick of the corrupted government and the ancient politicians bickering amongst themselves, trying to squeeze the most money out of the Korean economy as possible into their pockets before their term ended. He led an entire platoon of tanks right into the capital, followed by an army of South Korean soldiers. The procession stopped in front of the Blue House, the presidential residence. The president fled, and Park Chung-hee became the new president of South Korea. From there, he industrialized Korea into the global powerhouse that it is today. He arrested all mafia members who had halted the growth of the Korean economy and executed them. He then borrowed tons of money from America, China, and Japan in order to build many factories, because he believed that was how Korea would survive. Today, South Korea is currently the nation with the biggest debt in the world. He forced everyone to work and exported everything they made. The salary was $10 a month at first, but he promised to raise it to $100 a month in a few years. True to his word, the Korean economy shot upwards, an astonishing exponential growth. New factories were being built, and in that process, Korea found its passion and skill in shipbuilding. Today, Korea is the #1 exporter in the world of ships and ship parts. However, he also made many enemies. President Park made Korea what it is today, one of the top 10 countries in the world. However, at the time, he had many enemies who opposed him. In 1975, as he was giving a speech, an assassin shot him but missed, and the bullet killed his wife who was standing next to him. The First Lady was rushed to the hospital and the President continued his speech. He thought of the country before himself and his family. His devotion to his country became very clear in 1979 at a dinner party, where one of his friends from the Korean Center of Investigation Agency took out a gun and shot the president to death. They were then captured and arrested as the president was quickly moved to a hospital. As they were taking his bloody clothes off, they noticed his belt was torn and ragged, his overcoat was moth-eaten, and his shoes were all worn out. As the president of the country for almost 20 years, he never once got himself a new coat or a new pair of shoes, not even a new belt. Even his enemies acknowledged his unfaltering passion and love he had for his country, and his overwhelming service he gave to the people of Korea. The entire country mourned him as one of the true great presidents of Korea, as the greatest and most dedicated president of Korea. My mom met my dad when she came to America as the manager of all the LG branches in California. In Korea, she was the vice president of the advertising branch of LG. My dad went back to Korea in 1988, where he married my mom after a few months of dating. In 1992, my mom and dad were living in Koreatown, where they both worked. This was when there was the Rodney King incident, where a black man was beat up by a group of white police officers. The enraged black community demanded the court find them guilty. The Koreans thought nothing of this matter because they were not involved in it. While at work, my dad received a call from his friend telling him that the court ruled the police innocent and that the black community was in an outrage. The next day, he got calls from his friends warning him of something big, like a riot. He dismissed such a foolish idea, as did everyone else in Koreatown. Why would the black community attack us? We're not white. It was on April 29, 1992. My dad turned on the morning news and it showed blacks stealing from Korean stores and burning them down one by one. The phone was ringing on and on. As he looked out the window, he could see pillars of smoke. The black community was angry that white people had beat up on Rodney King, so they invaded Koreatown. It made perfect sense. Then the Latinos, who had absolutely nothing to do with the riot, saw this as their chance for free stuff and joined the blacks in pillaging Korean businesses and burning them down. The police were called, and they came, but they did nothing. This cowardly show by the police disappointed the Korean store owners. The Korean store owners armed themselves and protected their businesses and their homes. Their shots were never meant to kill. It was just a show of power. My dad was called to his office to protect overnight with other employees. The owner had bought them all shotguns and they staked out on the roof. When they heard a car coming, they would all stand up with their guns showing. Ironically, and unfortunately, throughout the riot there was only one casualty. It was an unarmed Korean teen who was shot to death by Hispanics. Over 2,000 Korean small businesses were burned down, totaling over $2 billion in damage. The blacks, after seeing that furthering their riot in Koreatown would be dangerous for them, started their way towards Bel Air and Beverly Hills. Police force was quickly mobilized along with the National Guard and the Marines, and the riot was stopped before they reached those communities. The Koreans were disappointed in the government and its failure to protect them and their businesses, and they were also furious at the black community, and especially at the Hispanic communities, for doing such a 2 years after the riots in 1994, I was born. My birth marks the end of the journey of my ancestors, including my parents, because now their lives have become centered around me. Their story is done, and now I must live my life accordingly, so if a book were to be published of my story, my descendants would not be ashamed to read it to the world.